Hello, everyone. I'm Ed Densel, and I host Unfound, and I run this YouTube channel. I realize you don't want to give a thumbs up to the following video until you watch it. You know what? That's totally understandable. I can appreciate that. But what you can do right now is subscribe to this channel. The button is right there. Thanks. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Unfound podcast channel on YouTube. I am, of course, Unfound's host, Ed Densel. As the title suggests, this will be a map analysis for the disappearance of Mekayla Bali. This is an episode of Unfound that came out on July 15th of 2022. Now, I'm going to attempt to do something that's a little experimental here. Of course, there are maps out there on the internet showing you all of the different places that Mekayla walked. And as I state in the episode, I don't think there's been a missing person who was caught on more video in the history of the world than Mekayla Bali was on the day of her disappearance. And unfortunately, 6 years later, she is still missing. It's very sad, of course. And I get into that a little bit in the episode talking about video and maybe why it's sometimes not as helpful as we think it should be. But for the purposes of this map analysis, I'm going to try to show you, instead of having these maps where it's like a line drawn between all of these locations, I'm actually going to take you from point to point to point to point using Google Maps on this. So I will be typing some things in. That's why this camera is off at a little bit of an angle, so I have room to do some typing on my MacBook here. And then you can see her patterns, and I'll be using a little pointer, my pen, to even do some more analysis as we go. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it's probably going to be longer than your usual map analysis. But I think it's important that we not just look at a map and see these lines drawn, but almost in real time, see the decisions that she was making for where she was walking. And is there a pattern here? And how can it be, at least in the end, that she was not seen at this, leaving this bus depot, whether she went on a bus or walked away or somebody picked her up? All right, so let's get started. Up there in the left-hand corner, you will see that is where she was dropped off, Sacred Heart High School in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, Canada. And as we all know now, she did not go to any of her classes. In fact, almost immediately, she left. And the first next, I guess what you would call believable sighting is at a place called Terry's Pawn Shop. And I'm going to type this into, we're going to do a little directions here. And we're going to go from Sacred Heart to Terry's Pawn and Bargain. And it's going to zoom in automatically there, and I'll zoom it out a little bit. Now, what catches my eye regarding this, at least according to the reports that are out there, and you now know by now when you see the blue dots, that means walking. If I were to change this to driving, you would see a solid blue line there. But, of course, we know that she was walking, so it's changed to that. And the distance, if you went directly that way, was 24 minutes. It's 1.9 kilometers, which is about 1.2 miles. So a mile and like a quarter, something like that. Not long that far. But you need to know something, though. There is evidence out there that she did not take a direct walk from here. This is, of course, as you know, Google, the way it works. This is the most efficient route. Unfortunately, though, for some reason, she ended up walking along the railroad tracks as seen by a surveillance camera. So where are these railroad tracks? And let's zoom in. And you will see these railroad tracks right over here. Right there are the railroad tracks. So She was, we might get the idea. I'm not trying to put anything into your heads or not. But is it, was she walking just because she was walking that way? Or was she trying to avoid being seen? A good way to avoid being seen if you're trying to get somewhere is to, of course, go in railroad tracks if you know that they are there, because there's really no houses next to them, or at least very close to them. And certainly you're going to get seen less if you go that way than walking right down the street, like it says Google says you should do if you're walking from Sacred Heart High School to Terry's Pawn and Bargain. All right, so we go now to the next location and just get into some times here. She left the school at 8:21, and she ended up at Terry's Pawn about between 8:40 and 8:50, which kind of, I think, goes along with the time frame. Doesn't seem like she did any delays there. The next, she was seen at a TD Bank withdrawing $55. So I'm going to put that into the map directions now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the school. So now you'll see that here's Terry's Pawn right here. And then the next time she's seen a very short walk down. So she came this way, went to Terry's Pawn, then went down to this TD Bank, which is right there. And she was seen there withdrawing money, $55. I'm guessing that's Canadian money. And between 8:50 and 8:55. Now, what's interesting after this is that she is then seen walking east on Broadway Street, going this direction. Then she is seen at a Tim Hortons. So let's put the Tim Hortons on there. All right, and so now I'll get rid of the Terry's Pawn. See how this is where maybe you get the hang of this now. Maybe I even do have the hang of this as well. So at 9:10, cameras show her entering a combined Tim Hortons Wendy's restaurant. She buys a drink, sits down at a table right there. She's using her phone. That's talked about in the episode. Then at 9:23, she leaves the restaurant, but then comes back in, and I'm reading some of this. This is from news articles. This is from Wikipedia. It's a combination of things. I have notes off screen. And she leaves the restaurant here, then comes back in, re-enters almost immediately, then goes out through a different exit. Over the next 25 minutes, she was spotted by several cameras near this restaurant, so maybe let me center that in for all of you. And her movements during this time form a wide circle, checking the area around the restaurant in a counterclockwise direction. So this, now, that's somebody inferring some, checking the area around the restaurant. That's getting in her head. You know, I don't like to do that. So all we know is action-wise, who knows what was in her head? If we knew that, maybe we could solve this disappearance 6 years later. But she was walking around this area in a counterclockwise position. Who knows what she was doing? I've been known to, like when I'm talking to people on the phone, I pace in my condo. Other people I know do this. Even if you're texting or if you're nervous or something, there can be a lot of reasons that people walk around aimlessly. Maybe it was signs she was having some sort of mental episode, but not necessarily, and it certainly doesn't mean that she was checking the area. We just don't know. All we know is she was walking in a counterclockwise position at Tim Hortons. But so she's seemingly outside for about 25 minutes, and at roughly 9:50, she enters this restaurant again. She sits down at a different table over the next 20 minutes. She's using her phone, and it seems she's making phone calls. Now, I think one of the issues regarding this whole disappearance is that, as you heard with Rick, and I don't remember seeing it anywhere, who was she talking to? We have to remember, seemingly all of her friends would have been in school. So how is she talking to these friends if they're in school? So hard to understand. And then at 10:12, so once again, roughly 20, 25 minutes, she's still there, and she sends a message. It says, "I need help." Rick and I talked about that in the interview. And then she says, "Never mind, figured it out." Then she leaves the restaurant again. So this is the second time she's left. But then, like within a half hour, she comes back in. Now, what was she doing in that time? I don't know if there's any news on that, any information. But 10:43, she comes back in. She talks to an elderly lady. They seemingly have a short conversation. Police have talked to this woman, and the woman said that Mekayla was asking about renting a room. And then after this conversation, Mekayla leaves this Tim Hortons for the third time, and at least according to video, never comes back. Now, after she leaves there, once again going by surveillance cameras, she is now walking in the opposite direction. So she came this direction from the bank. Now she's going back in the opposite direction, walking west on if that's not confusing enough. It's called Broadway Street East, but she's walking west on the street. But she takes a turn and she heads on 7th Avenue South. That is this road right here, or street, I guess we might call it. However, then she quickly turns around, goes back to Broadway, and keeps going west until she leaves camera of view. So let's center this up, and maybe we can get rid of this TD place. Can we do that? Is it going to allow me to do that? Maybe not. So, okay, so she's walking. She went down here. She went down, she came back, and then continued this way. And this is roughly around 11 o'clock. And she does not appear on any other surveillance footage for more than an hour after that. So somehow she was able to walk this direction, and no cameras anywhere down here caught her. She didn't seem to go back to the bank. There's another bank here, which, as we know, usually have cameras. As soon as she goes up here, turns left, she disappears for an hour. Considerable amount of time. And then, according to an employee at the bus depot that was closed down a year later, she went to the bus depot. An hour later, she shows up there. And she asks about taking a bus to Regina. And yes, it is Regina, not Regina. Regina. And then she learned that the bus would not be leaving till later in the afternoon. And it was still only maybe around 11:15 or 11:30, something like that, when she is at the bus station. So we will now put the STC bus depot in there. And, of course, the problem is that this place does not exist here in 2022. So let me see if I can quickly figure out what that address was very quickly. Okay, and it is right there. That's where it was, I should say. It was at 44 1 Avenue North. So I can now get rid of the TD Canada Trust Branch. So she was at Tim Hortons. Of course, we know that she spent some time there. She went down 7th Avenue and then went this direction, vanished for about an hour, and then she shows up at the STC bus depot. And the best that the people were able to tell, that could be narrowed down sometime between 11 a.m. and 11:45 a.m. So, once again, it's like 10:45, and then she's seen way over here at the bus depot. She asks about, once again, she asks about a bus to Regina that wouldn't be leaving until later in the afternoon. She'd have to spend several hours there. She leaves the bus station, which is right there, and at 11:35, she sent another text message. She said that she's going to meet this friend for lunch. And what does she do? She goes the whole way back to the school. So we will do that now. Sacred Heart High School. And so now we can get rid of the Tim Hortons. So she's kind of going back the way she came to start the day. Remember, she started here, went down to the pawn shop, to TD Bank. Now she's worked her way the whole way back up to the school at around lunchtime. But she's only there for a very short time, like 4 or 5 minutes. She enters the school at 11:59, but then she leaves the school at 12:03. And so, why did she go back just to say hi? We don't know. We aren't even sure what the course of those conversations were, but how they went. Only to say that she told them that she was going to go to Regina. So once again, this word Regina, place Regina, is mentioned again. First, to this employee, you know how I feel about eyewitnesses. You can choose to judge that, yes or no, whether it actually happened. But allegedly, at this location, she mentions about going to Regina. And like the employee said, that bus doesn't leave until like 5 o'clock or something. So Mekayla goes back to school, only spends a few minutes there, brings up the topic of Regina, is only there for a few minutes, leaves again. And what does she do? She goes back to this restaurant that was attached to the bus depot. So she goes from the bus depot to the school, then comes right back. And so I will now flip those around. And you can then see that it's not a very far walk, 1.6 kilometers, which, as I stated before, what is 1.6 kilometers? It is about a little over a mile, 20 minutes. And as I always say, the average human walks at about 3 miles an hour, so that kind of works out. So she goes back to the bus depot, and she is seen on video at the restaurant between 1 and 1:45. And after that, no one remembers seeing her. She does not appear on any other surveillance footage. It says police, as we talked about in the interview, police talked about they were unable to verify that she did not get in any of the buses that day, despite asking about a bus headed to Regina. When last seen, she was wearing glasses, a teal mint infinity scarf, and a purple coat, and she had blonde wavy hair that can be seen, of course, in the videos if you've seen them. So, how is it that in this city of Yorkton, yeah, it's not New York City or Toronto, but it's a considerable city. It has banks, it has a school, it has a Tim Hortons, it has a bus depot. How is it that she can be in this bus depot and there are only a few options here, really? Either one, she really did get on that bus and the police missed it, and it very well could be. We have to be open to the idea maybe she didn't choose to go to Regina. Maybe she, at 1:45, being that she was at this restaurant, she goes, well, I'm not waiting around till later this afternoon to go to Regina. I'm just going to get on some other bus and go anywhere. I think that's a viable option, no matter if the police tried to check all these buses or not. We know police miss things, they make mistakes, and we also know sometimes that they don't take these types of disappearances very seriously. Why? Because she's a teenager. Oh, and she'll come back. We have to remember all of that. Of course, the other choice is that she got into a car with someone. The question is, why would she be asking about tickets to Regina, but then get in the car with somebody, in a car with anybody? Hard to understand. But we have to remember, though, that when she was at Tim Hortons, which was over in this area, that she was on the phone with someone, maybe even more than someone, and we don't know who that person or those people are. To my knowledge, they've never come forward, or if they have, it's not been made public. I'm very open to the idea, as we talked about in the interview, and you can read it other places, that she was fiddling with her phone. And in fact, she asked a classmate through a text, "Hey, I need help." And then she said she figured it out. I'm open to the idea that she was messing around with her SIM card, that she might have had a different SIM card, taking apart the phone, putting in the other SIM card so she could communicate secretly with someone else or another group of people. And that's what she was doing. It's a little harder to do these days. In fact, very new phones, you can't open them at all. But you probably could on a phone 6-7 years ago. In fact, the phone I have now, you can't take it apart. If the battery goes, you just have to get another phone. I'm guessing that her phone was not like that. So it's very possible she was taking it apart, putting a different SIM card in, which would then have a different phone number, different communication with the tower, and nobody would know that it was Mekayla talking, but Mekayla and whoever else she was talking to. This would be no different. We think of burner phones, or drug dealers have multiple phones. Well, having more than one SIM card allows you to have, I guess, multiple phones, but it's all just in one phone. We also have to remember that a lot of times, if people travel to other countries, you can use a SIM card from that country to communicate back to your home country. In fact, I remember my sister Diane, she went somewhere to Europe or something, and with her phone, and she had a SIM card or something that she could use outside of the United States to call back to the United States cheaper or something like that. So this is certainly possible. The third option is that she really did walk off. Well, how did she do that then? Well, I think there's already proof that here she was in this area, and I'll zoom back in here, and we have an hour between her being over at Tim Hortons and her going to this bus depot. Remember, there's almost an hour there where she's not seen. So it does seem that in this area there could be some type of, there could be no video cameras. And so if she decided she was at the bus depot and she left, she might not even have known that. So she walks away and she walks back into this area where there is no video coverage and seemingly just happened to walk in that area. And so then we have to be open to the idea that, yes, she vanished from here. That's the last place she was seen. But then she walked into what we might call a dead zone for video coverage. And she might have popped out over here, was seen on video camera down here, or over here. But because of the path that she took, she's not seen on the video. And so the police are so focused, and family, on the bus depot that it very well could be, if they checked a video that's down here, over there, that she might have been seen on it. But they're not looking there because, well, she was last seen here. And there's no proof that she went anywhere else. So I'm open to the idea that she was seen on video as a possibility somewhere else, well outside, well away from the bus depot. But being that there is proof there is a area in here, then maybe she went into that area and popped out somewhere else and was walking away. So I think all of these choices are viable at this time. That she got on a bus but wasn't headed to Regina. She got in a car with somebody she was communicating with on her phone with a different SIM card, and that she walked off. So I hope you found this video helpful. Try to do it step by step, starting here, going down to the pawn shop, the Tim Hortons, the bank, the Tim Hortons, a couple times, going to the bus depot, going back to school, then heading back to the bus depot. So there you go. That is my map analysis for the disappearance of Mekayla Bali. And please like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please share it with others. Please subscribe to this channel. And I will talk to you again very soon. Thanks for watching.